everything looks best. Welcome into a special edition of Sports Tonight. I have former Georgia linebacker Rennie Curran joining me tonight. We are outside the Benz because this is a special preview of the SEC Championship Showdown that will go down on Saturday right on Atlanta News First between the #1 ranked Georgia Bulldogs and the 8th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. Before we dive into every aspect of this game, Rennie, just how are you feeling about this one?
I feel good about it. I mean, at the end of the day, I know Georgia's been in these situations before. We have so many talented players who have game experience. The biggest question is something I've always talked about this entire season, is the injuries. Although we've made it far into the playoffs and into these national championships, it has come at a cost. And so now we're seeing guys like Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey, guys who we're used to seeing make big plays, who are now banged up at this time of the year, which you cannot have if you talk about getting to the national championship and what we have established now as a standard, which is getting to that national championship and winning it. So I believe if we can overcome these injuries and gauging off what happens tomorrow, if these guys are able to play or not, it's going to make a big difference in if we're able to be successful or not. And then defensively, we have to go in there and establish ourselves as well. These last couple of weeks, we have not looked good against the run, especially in just establishing just defense on the perimeter. So a lot of teams have been able to attack us there. Georgia Tech did a great job last week. So we cannot allow this, especially with this dual threat quarterback in Jalen Milroe. So we got our work cut out for us, but I think we'll be successful at the end of the day.
And Rennie's right on the SEC wrap-up show. He talked in depth about down the stretch, the injuries being an issue. So right now, Ladd McConkey, Brock Bowers, Tate Ratledge, and Ra Thomas are all uncertain for Saturday. Let's pretend we can peer into the future. Do you really think none of them play in a game this caliber?
Yeah, in a game with this caliber, I'd be highly surprised if they did not play. I at least see Brock Bowers and Ladd getting some reps and then seeing how they do in the first quarter. But I know when Kirby was interviewed, he did not. And one thing they're not going to do is tell you exactly who is going to play.
He tried to play it off like, oh, I'm still uncertain. Come on. He knows a little bit more.
He knows. So they did get some reps during the week of practice, which is always a positive in terms of if they're going to play or not, a positive indicator. So I think they will get some play. But depending on, I think how their body reacts in those first couple of reps will determine if they play the entire game. But at the end of the day, the good thing is when you do have guys like that who are off the field, who are out in a couple games, that allows you in another way the ability to build reps and to get some experience for some other guys. So we've seen Dylan Bell emerge as a playmaker these last couple weeks, and I think he's going to be an even bigger factor. He's somebody who nobody's talking about, but I'm sure Bama has a game plan for when he's in the game. Kendall Milton, same thing. He's been able to get the ball.
We're going to talk about him because he's been popping off lately. I mean, he's really, before we get too far into the real X's and O's of this game, as a player, what is it like to come into a game of this caliber at the Benz and just know there's so much on the line? Because it's not about just winning an SEC title. There are a lot of CFP implications on this game. If Georgia wins, okay, but if they lose, it is chaos for college football.
Yeah, and that's the number one thing as a player you're not focused on is winning or losing or getting too far ahead of that game. You want to focus on, like Kirby always talks about, next play mentality, and that's the biggest thing is focus on doing what your coach should do, not allowing the moment to get too big to where you get psyched out, where you get anxious, you get stressed out, but really just doing what's comes second nature to you. And these are things that you practice week in, week out, the same drops, the same plays, the same routines, and really just sticking to that. And that ultimately will help you be successful as an athlete, because when you get in a stadium like this, especially when you're younger, if you're a freshman, it can get so big in that moment that you allow yourself to get out of whack and do things that you aren't coached to do. But if you're a veteran guy, you know that, hey, this is just another game. I'm going in here. I'm going to execute. Yes, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy the moment with my teammates. But I'm just going to do what I'm coached to do day in and day out.
Well, and the build-up all of this week has been astounding. You know, the players are itching to get here. Kirby Smart and Nick Saban had pressers throughout the week. Jalen Milroe talked this week. We're going to tune into what the Georgia players had to say this week in their press conference.
Like a Kirby quote. I don't know. Y'all might have heard it when he talks about the baby back bull. You know, he might have threw one of those out. That's the first one that comes to mind.
You mentioned a couple of freshman defenders there. I wanted to ask you about two others, CJ and Raylan. What's impressed you the most about those two young linebackers?
I knew from, I believe, winter workouts when we just started going out there, and then when it translated on to just doing 7-on-7 and little, padless type of drills and stuff like that. I knew these guys, they're going to be the next, good Georgia linebackers. Just seeing them in practice, seeing how good they run, seeing how after practice they're straight to the film room, how they put all the extra effort into it. And even they came in really just trying to learn from Smile and Pop, and I feel like they just took everything as a learning process and took everything as just trying to gain the experience, not really focusing on I want to come and start, day one. That wasn't really their focus. I feel like it was more, what can I do to be the best I can in my position. And I feel like they both have taken that to heart, and just seeing how they first came in and seeing where they're at now, both getting very valuable playing time and just helping us to be able to win big games. I'm proud of my guys.
Hey, Kendall, Kirby, get another question about the breaking tackles. Kirby mentioned yesterday there were a few times during the Tech game, some of the Tech players were tapped over that, come off the field, holding the side, holding on, something like that. And I don't know, how much enjoyment do you get that as a running back, knowing you're going to put the pain of some of these guys for trying to bring you down?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't even think about it. I don't know if, like, most times if y'all see me on the field, it's like after, say, I get a first down, it's not much celebration after the run. It's not much, I don't personally like even think about it in the moment. I just, right when I get tackled, I look back to the sideline and get back. Maybe after a touchdown because my line makes me do a little celebration. So maybe after a touchdown there'll be a little celebration. But to be honest, I really don't even think of it. More so, I'll start to think of it after the game when everything's all over and I'm watching the film and watching the runs, and I'll be like, oh sheesh. But in the moment, I don't even think of it.
Yeah, you've won national championships, major bowl games, major rivalries, but what would a win on Saturday make special or significant about winning an SEC championship?
I feel like it would be super big just for the fact that, Coach Smart pointed it out that, we've never been able to beat Alabama in Atlanta. So I feel like being able to, and that doesn't just go for the players, that goes for the coaches as well. So I feel like we have a huge opportunity here, and just judging off of today's practice, I feel like we've taken that opportunity to heart. This was probably one of the most physical, chippiest practices that we've had all year, but it just shows that, how hungry we are, how much we want it.
Another Kirby quote for you.
All right.
You talked about how much confidence he's seen you run with these last couple of weeks. Just with being healthy and the way you've had these performances the last few weeks, how much confidence are you running with going into this SEC championship?
I have the utmost confidence at this point, but I feel like it's a whole lot of different factors that kind of go into it. The first thing, I feel like the O-line and kind of the whole team, I feel like that plays a big role because, at the end of the day, you want to be trusted. You want to be able to know that, your brothers believe in you. So before every game, before practice, before today's team run, our linemen, they'll be like, hey, K-Mill, run that ball like you know how to do. Or they'll be like, they'll just keep fueling me and keep letting me know stuff. And also at the same time, between Coach McGee, Coach Smart, and Coach Bobo, when your coach is constantly putting you in a position to kind of have the ball and, make plays, it just kind of lets you know that they have the trust in you. And I'll let Coach Bobo and Coach Smart know after the games, like, thank you for believing in me. Just thank you for letting me have the opportunity. Because at the end of the day, I feel like, speaking for the whole team, everybody just wants an opportunity to be able to be on the field. So I feel like those were probably the two biggest things that led to me being able to have the confidence and be able to, just trust my game.
Kendall, when you look at Alabama's defensive line, their linebackers on film, what do you see, and how confident are you guys to be able to run the ball like you want?
I mean, I feel like even back to my freshman year, just watching film, like throughout every year, it's so similar between Georgia and Alabama from offense, defense, special teams, like the whole just like Coach Smart said, they're big, they're fast, they have very talented players. At the end of the day, I feel like it's going to be about, who wants them more. They have great coaches, we have great coaches, I feel like both sides are going to dial up a great game plan. At the end of the day, it comes down to the players on the field and execution, being at the right place at the right time. And at the end of the day, who wants it more? Who has the deeper heart for this?
Carson even said, he didn't know how he was going to play this year or what have you. Was there a moment for you? He's had several big moments, especially looking back on the year. South Carolina, you guys got to come back in the second half. But Auburn, you guys got to come back in the second half. Do you recall any kind of particular moment or something where you realized that, he's got it and we're going to be okay?
I feel like it was kind of the same way with me when it was talked about like the process that it took for me to build my confidence. I feel like everything just takes, it's a process. He came in, he sat for about 3 years and, coming straight into the starting position, especially as a quarterback, and we don't have the simplest offense in the world. Like, we have a very complex, diverse offense. So to be a quarterback in that and have to know basically know everybody's assignment, what everybody has down to the T. I feel like Carson, he's taken, lead of this offense in a very great way. I've been able to see from week 1 all the way to now, like even just from his pocket presence and the throws that he'll make, and when he takes off with the ball in the pocket, you could just see that he's way more comfortable now. And just to be able to see the point that he's gone, that he's made it to from now, because I've seen when, back in COVID year when the quarterback position, when it was just a lot going on, and then seeing him, because behind the scenes, people see one thing, but behind the scenes, you can see, like I see a lot of my brothers, like real emotions and how they're really feeling. So I know, it hasn't really just been a smooth, happy ride. Like, there's been a lot of disappointment, a lot of hopes that, he was going to do something earlier on, and just, disappointment. But to see now just him taking lead of the offense, making big plays, making big throws, just being the quarterback, the person that the whole team knows he is, I'm just super happy for Carson, and I know that he has 1,000 more blessings on the way.
Let's take 2 more questions.
Yeah, Kendall, you said that Kirby mentioned y'all haven't been able to beat Alabama in Atlanta for the SEC championship. For a program that's accomplished so much just while you've been here, what is it like to have that one big box left unchecked?
I mean, to be honest, I feel like it just motivates us that much more. And like I said, it's not even just a player thing. It's also the coaching staff. Like, even before we got there, it was a thing that wasn't accomplished. And I feel like the players, like, every single time we've been able to put a new milestone in front of us, I feel like we've taken it on, like, very seriously, and we've taken it very personal. And just to see the hunger and just see how dedicated everybody on the team is to this task, not even just the seniors or just the starters or just the people that are playing, but it's all the way top to bottom, even from the walk-ons, the freshmen that, haven't seen the field this year. It's a whole buy-in from the whole program. So, everybody knows the task at hand. Everybody knows, this isn't something easy that's going to happen. I feel like winning the SEC championship is just as hard, if not harder, than winning a national championship. So I feel like we know the task at hand, and it's just up to us to, complete it.
We want to win the SEC. We facing Bama, so we want to beat Bama. That's really the end of it. I haven't beat them. We haven't beat them. So, it's going to make for a great matchup. I can't wait to play, but like I said, we want to beat them.
Get back to Coach Brown for a minute. Did he let you guys know whether or not he's going to continue coaching with the team through the bowl or playoffs, or is he only going to meet with Syracuse?
We didn't really ask him that. We kind of just, focused our mindset on Bama. We can't really dial into what Coach Frank going to do. I'm pretty sure he'll let us know, if he decides to do whatever he decides. But like I said, right now our focus is on Bama.
He hadn't told you yet?
No, probably not. No, I ain't heard nothing.
Obviously, CJ and Raylan have had bigger roles of late. What have you seen from those 2 young linebackers?
Guys come in to work, man. Guys come in. I mean, Coach Schumann does an amazing job of, getting guys ready in those big shoes. Being a linebacker at Georgia comes with a lot. You got to make calls. You talking to the D-line. You talking to the secondary. You talking to outside backers. You talking to the corners at times. So, like, that's big shoes to fill, and they embrace that role. They come to practice to work day in and day out. They make, Of course, everybody makes mistakes here and there, but those guys, they learn quick. you know, and they bought into, you know what I'm saying, the standard in which we try to practice with and which we try to play with. And I feel like those guys are going to have a very bright future here.
Javon, I know this is on the other side of the ball, but what has it been like to watch Kendall Milton have such success for y'all the last few weeks? You know, going through the injuries he's gone through to now playing so well for y'all at the right time.
I'm excited for him, man. What better person to do the things that he's done but Kendall, you know what I mean? Like, the guy's been through so much, you know what I'm saying, as far as injuries and things like that. Probably not things going the way he wanted them to. But, you know, we always say, you know what I'm saying, God might not be there when you want him, but he's always right on time. So, like I said, man, I'm proud of him. He's definitely going in the right direction. I'm happy he's on my team. You know, 6'2", 240 coming down here with a full head of steam, man, that's a lot. But, like I said, man, I'm excited for him, man. I'm proud.
Yeah, Kendall mentioned how chippy today's practice had been. I know you weren't thrilled how the defense had played after Georgia Tech. Has that Georgia Tech performance maybe sort of recentered or refocused you guys into going into this Alabama game and saying, hey, we have a point to prove that performance we put out last week isn't who this Georgia defense is?
Really, I wouldn't even say we got a point to prove. We're just trying to win. And we know we can't beat that team without having good practices. So we're trying to stack days on top of days on top of days. The game's not going to be won on Saturday. The game's won throughout the week. Whichever team prepares the best, whichever teams have the best practice, whichever team attacks the days, you know what I'm saying, the moments throughout the days the best, I feel like it's going to win this game. So that's all we're trying to do, man. We're trying to win the moments. We're trying to take every rep serious. We're trying to really just get game day reps throughout the week. So when we get to the game, it's just second nature that we be able to play fast and free.
What's it going to be like to go up against Jermaine Burton on a Saturday as opposed to on a practice field?
I'm excited, man. I'm pretty sure Jermaine's excited, too. I think it's going to be a great matchup. I can't wait to see him play.
On today, Malachi was announced as a Jim Thorpe finalist. Just what has put him in this position where he's got a chance to take home the trophy as the nation's best defensive player?
You know, it's crazy that we was making a little friendly competition that, you know what I'm saying, one of us was going to get it. And like, I mean, I'm not surprised at all, man. The guy is a special talent. I mean, when I say special talent, I mean special talent. The guy comes into work. I mean, he's just one of those guys that you knew stepping on first day on campus, like he's one of those guys. Like his athleticism, the way his willingness to learn, his mindset about, you know what I'm saying, practice, the way he leads others. The guy, he's special, man. I can't be more proud of a person. I'm personally close to Malachi. I mean, I play right beside the guy. So, like I said, man, I couldn't be more proud, man. Really just don't let the game be too big for you. You know,
And that was the Georgia players talking about this matchup. Let's dive into some of the nitty-gritty X's and O's of this game. Let's start with Alabama's run defense. Do you think this is an area to be exposed by Georgia, especially with how Dejon Edwards and especially Kendall Milton have been popping off the last couple games?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And Bama has been suffering from some injuries. They don't have elite defensive line like they normally do. So dogs, they don't have an elite defensive line like what we're used to seeing from Bama, having a big nose tackle. I remember when I played, they had big Mount Cody who held things down in the middle. So they're going to have to really do a good job of containing this, which doesn't fare well for them with how Kendall Milton and Dejon Edwards have been playing. I'm expecting big things out of them. And then what's hasn't been talked about is the progression of our offensive line.
Yeah.
Right, and just the success that they've had. They've been just straight bullies these last couple weeks, and that has been what has created that success for Kendall Milton and Dejon Edwards to be able to find those gaps, get to the second level, and do what they do best. So, yeah.
Yeah, Milton has 644 yards, 10 scores. Another talking point we both were saying that was interesting from Kirby Smart. He said this training camp before going into the season, they spent time with the Navy SEALs and basically learned this slogan, if you will, from the Navy SEALs that if you can't take, like if you're too weak for criticism, you don't deserve to be on this team. Now, the Navy SEALs, they live by that because it's literally life and death sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not that way in football, but it's a good point of having that mentality. My question to you is, do you believe today's kids are built for that because I feel like back when you played,
Yeah.
that would have been a more common thought process where that's maybe not necessarily the type of kids that are being recruited this year, especially with name, image, and likeness, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, this day and age, there is a lot more of that self-promotion and more of that participation trophy and, just
Yeah.
the soft life, if you will. But at the end of the day, if you're going to come to a school like University of Georgia, you got to be able to handle criticism. You got to be willing to, especially if you expect to eventually be a starter, you got to be willing to ride that bench for a little bit, pay your dues, and he lets that be known from the get-go. And the guys who can't handle that, they're the ones who are weeded out. They're the guys who transfer out, enter the transfer portal and whatnot. So, I think when you go to practice, that's where it starts, the day in, day out. Saturday is one thing, but in between the weeks, I mean, Kirby is letting it be known, and that is one of the reasons why they've had so much success is because he tells the truth. He is constantly holding them accountable. He's telling them like it is. If they're not doing well, he's letting them know. If they're doing well, he's letting them know. If they're soft, he's going to tell you.
Yep.
And I think you need that as a player, especially to operate at this level of caliber, to be elite. You got to be willing to handle an elite level of criticism. And so I think he does a great job of that, making sure that he holds them accountable, especially when they feel like they're getting, too successful. And that's when it becomes dangerous, is when you start to have a little bit of success, you start getting some money in your pocket, which I didn't have that problem. You didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So you have to have that now
Yeah.
in order to have that consistent success out of 18 to 23-year-olds.
I want to talk about something specifically to Kirby. How does he keep doing this year after year? Like, I think it's totally underplayed how hard it is to find teams to be this successful, this consistently.
Yeah.
What is the key there? Like, what is it? How is he able to keep finding success?
The key is culture. That's what I truly believe. He is really, really honed down on what it is to maintain a culture, to maintain a collective mindset, and to bring players into his program and constantly feed players like that into his program that maintain that same level of culture and belief and connection and identity. And you hear him say it all the time that, hey, this year's team has to find their own identity, which means they have to find what it looks like for them to attach themselves to Kirby's culture. And he, like I said, whether it's in practice, whether it's with the facilities, with the donor base, everything that he does is about creating this environment that breeds success and being elite.
Yeah, so we do ad-libs on our SEC Rap show, and I just kind of came up with an ad-lib here, and I want to throw it at you and see what you think. If Jalen Milroe is Lamar Jackson, Carson Beck is...
He's Tom Brady, man.
You think so?
He's not Tom Brady. Tom Brady-esque.
Okay.
But in terms of the way that he breaks down defenses, if you give him time, he can work through his progressions.
Yeah.
He spreads the ball around. He's not the most athletic, but he gets the job done.
Go ahead.
You can say the same thing about Tom Brady. He wasn't the most athletic, but he found a way to win. His confidence grew over time. Not a lot was expected from him early on.
That's
so
true.
there's a lot of comparables there.
I can see that. You're defending it a little bit. I can see why you said that. And it's interesting because you have seen his confidence absolutely grow.
Yeah.
I think he showed a lot in that Auburn game, but it was the Ole Miss game to me that kind of solidified, okay, he's good. He was throwing into small pockets to Ladd McConkey. He was airing it out. He looked really sharp. He's 4-0 versus top 20 teams, 1,247 yards, 11 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch this quarterback battle tomorrow. I know they don't go head-to-head necessarily, but to see what they're each able to do and propel their offenses in this game, I think it's going to be something really fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, both of these quarterbacks have progressed so immensely throughout the entire season. When you look at where they first started, how much pressure was on each one of them, and for them to both be able to bounce back the way that they have and not just perform well, but also become leaders on their team is truly commendable. And it's not easy when you step in, especially after you have this type of success that both Alabama and Georgia have had, and take commands of these type of offenses with elite, offense coordinators, elite players around you. There's a lot of pressure and a lot of expectation that comes even before you step into that role. You're thinking about it. You're playing in your head, and you've been waiting for your opportunity for sometimes in Carson Beck's case for years to get this shot. So the last thing you want to do is let it go to waste. So really got to give them huge kudos for the work that they've done.
Everyone knows this stat by now. Georgia is 0-3 against Bama in the SEC title game. On top of that, Nick Saban is 17-1 when playing in Atlanta and 7-0 at Mercedes-Benz, undefeated. How concerned are you about that with going into Saturday's game?
So if I'm the old Georgia, if I'm looking at the old Georgia, I'm concerned. But with this new Georgia team and with the job that Kirby has done recruiting year in and year out, I feel more than confident. I feel like Kirby has the edge in terms of not just the players, but also coaching edge.
Yeah.
You know, you look at Bobo and the success that he's had after working with Todd Monken and just the improvements he's made as an offense coordinator. I think we're a much better team offensively. We're a much better team across the board defensively. And then Bama is not as strong as, like I said before, as they have been, you know, in terms of their defensive line, in terms of their depth, you know, and also the quarterback play, right? I look at Carson Beck. He's much more seasoned. He's been able to watch a guy like Stetson and also learn from Todd Monken as well. And so I look at him as a much more seasoned quarterback as well. And I think we have the edge there. And when you look at the top teams, that's what it really comes down to is the quarterback play. And I believe he's much more efficient.
I don't blame you. I totally agree with you there. Let's look a little beyond the SEC title game. We were just kind of talking about this off air.
Yeah.
If Georgia wins, they're a shoo-in for the CFP at number 1.
Right.
If they lose, it is going to be absolute chaos. I mean, do you even have a top 4 of who could make it at this point if they end up losing?
There's so many different scenarios. I mean, you got Oregon and Washington, you know.
Who play tonight.
Yeah, who play tonight. So that's a big question mark. Who's going to win that game? I really personally like Oregon and Bo Nix.
Yeah, I do too.
I think he's going to ultimately win, and that is going to create even more chaos if Georgia does lose. And I don't even want to speak those words.
Yeah. I feel
then you have, you know, Texas and that whole battle between if Bama does win, but Texas beat Alabama, so who gets the nod there, right? So there's just so many different scenarios that could play out, and I really don't see a clear kind of
and then you have Florida State, who could be undefeated.
Right.
I think where it comes down to and what the rub is over the years in different CFPs, you've seen the committee choose because they're undefeated or because of their record or their one loss was to X team.
Right.
But they've also, at times, chosen teams who look like the best football team. And let's just be straight to the point here about this. Georgia is the best-looking football team no matter what happens tomorrow. They have consistently been the best team in college football the entire season. So even if they lose to Bama in the SEC title game, do they still get in at 4?
It's tough not to argue against, or it's tough to argue against them not being in that top 4, especially when they went through that gauntlet. They've proven themselves time and time again, going against Ole Miss, Tennessee. I mean, you look at strength of schedule. Let's remove, you know, the wins and losses, but just look at the strength of schedule. Georgia has proven themselves time and time again, and not just beating ranked teams, but convincingly beat them as well. So it's going to be tough to keep them out of that college football playoff, but at the end of the day, we got the undefeated teams. Florida State, if they're able to pull it off, you know, Washington, if they're able to win out, it makes it a lot tougher to make that argument as well. And
I know Texas needs a little help.
Definitely.
But I do think they're one of the teams that if it all plays out in their favor, they could sneak in. And their one loss is to OU, which anyone who knows OU-Texas is a massive matchup that could swing either way each year. But they have a massive win over Alabama. And that looks really good, and that was in Tuscaloosa. So you have to remember that. However, they need to win the Big 12 championship against Oklahoma State. They need some other things to fall their way. But that is one that I find really interesting. I got asked the other day, do you think Ohio State has a chance of getting in the Final 4 or the top 4? No.
Nah, not at all.
There's no world, in my world at least, that I think Ohio State gets into that game. All right, so as we wrap up here on Sports Night, Rennie, I want your final thoughts for this Saturday SEC title game. Do they win? What is your prediction? What does this game look like?
I believe Georgia wins, but the main thing is they have to contain Jalen Milroe. If they allow him to get loose, get a little bit of time like he got last week.
The 4th and 30, and
he had
they rushed 2, and
20
he had
seconds.
2 years to throw the ball.
Right. If they allow him to use his legs, his greatest weapon, and then find those, you know, downfield receivers and make big plays, explosive plays, it is going to be a long day for us. So our defense really has to do a good job of containing him, also stopping the run. We can't forget about that. And then also ultimately Carson Beck has to be able to continue doing what he does best, which is getting the ball to his playmakers. Hopefully we get Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey if I see them both on the field, I'm going to take a big
We're
sigh.
going to be happy.
Yeah, and I know all the Georgia fans will as well. And we're going to feel good going into that game.
Well, you can watch that game right on Atlanta News First at 4 o'clock. It's going to be an SEC showdown everyone's going to want to tune into. Shout out to Rennie for joining us tonight on Sports Tonight. I'm Bailey Burmaster. Join us next week for more content.